Is this on? Is it supposed to be on?
It's not gonna, you're not gonna hear anything.
Oh, okay. Thank God, because I don't like microphones. Okay. Hi. So my name's Katie, and I did my 20% project on how the world may end. I focus my research on four main theories, which is the robots, volcanoes, the expansion of the sun, and the theory of 2031. But before I get into my research, I wanted to ask what theories or ideas you guys had on how the world may end. Cat.
Climate change.
Lily.
Aliens. Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Water depletion.
Okay. So all these theories that you guys had most likely are talking about kind of a farther or a longer period of time, which most of my theories do too. 3 of them do, but the 4th one talks about kind of, or scientists at least believe that could be among us right now. And I'll talk more about that later. So the first theory I have is about robots and how they could overtake humans. So the theory about robots is that they'll overtake humans' jobs and kind of what humans do on Earth and what gives humans a use on Earth. And the theory states that humans could possibly fade out. And some characteristics that robots have over humans is their efficiency and their ability to make less mistakes, and also, which is really important, is that they don't have relationships and emotions such as like humans do. Robots are expected to take up about 47% of jobs within the next 100 years, as well as being more specific towards the jobs is the medical field, and even further surgery and surgeon tasks. So tools such as the scalpel could be completely replaced, and scientists also predict that bioprinting, which is a form of robots printing organs, so transplant surgeries could be could have a new look, and they wouldn't need a transplant list or donors anymore. So overall, the theory of the robots just states that humans basically could be taken over and their use would no longer be needed on the planet. So next I researched a theory about volcanoes. So volcanoes have been known to have a common, well, they erupt all the time, but a common era of like a super volcanic activity is known to have happened, and there's patterns in history. So scientists believe one could be among us sooner rather than later and cause something as horrible as a mass extinction. So previously, as I talked about, volcanoes have had these type of time periods where there's eruptions going on all over the world, and they're catastrophic. So about 250 million years ago, something known as the Permian extinction occurred after a supervolcanic eruption, and it wiped out about 85% of land species and 95% of marine species, just to give you like an idea of the catastrophe that can cause. And the ash amount close to about 50,000 square miles, so it gives you an idea of that. And like I said, scientists believe another peak in this type of volcanic activity could happen soon. And the capabilities of volcanoes include that ash, like I talked about, what's emitted from a volcano during eruption is very dangerous. It's the most dangerous aspect to volcanic eruptions. So ash has known to be very dangerous, obviously, and bad to breathe in, as well as it has the potential to reach much farther than where it actually is emitted from, or the specific volcano. And it has been known that in Italy, Campi Flegrei, which is a volcano there, erupted about 39,000 years ago, and its ash reached about 1,200 miles away in places in Russia. And also sulfur dioxide is a gas emitted from a lot of volcanic eruptions, and it can be fatal to humans when it's breathed in. So overall, the theory of volcanoes states that a supervolcanic eruption could just cause a mass extinction, and scientists predict that a new era of volcanic activity could be among us soon. The third theory that I research is the expansion of the sun, which is definitely, I think, the most popular theory that gives us kind of, or what scientists believe may be the end of the world. And there's a lot of more scientific evidence supporting this theory than any other theory I came across. So our sun is a red giant, or more generally a star, but specifically a red giant. And red giants are known to expand when they die. Scientists have seen this in their studies of different stars similar to the sun, or just different red giants. And roughly 7.6 billion years, our sun is expected to die or expand, and it's about halfway through its lifetime right now, so it won't really affect us, this theory. But and while it expands, the problem with that is obviously it would engulf the Earth and take over its orbit, which would scorch the surface and everything like that. So the evidence that scientists have come up with is that obviously all stars die. They're made of gas. They don't last forever, just as our sun won't. And also they've investigated other solar systems very similar to ours that have stuff revolving around a red giant type thing, and they've seen the red giant expand and do exactly what they predict, engulf orbits of planets in our solar system. And some effects of the sun expansion include obviously like it scorching the Earth, it evaporating water, and just obviously killing all life because it will be too hot. So overall, the expansion of the sun has the most scientific evidence behind it because scientists have seen really similar scenarios during space. All right, so lastly, I researched the theory of 2031, which is, this is the theory that I talked about earlier that is kind of among us right now. And scientists have most recently been talking about this whole 11 to 12 years for us to reverse climate change. So the theory states that by 2031 or 2030, climate change will become irreversible because the greenhouse gases are being emitted, or the gases in the atmosphere are being emitted at too high of a rate, and it's warming our Earth at temperatures that are way too hot to be happening at one time, and it obviously will cause climate change, could cause a disaster, and will be irreversible. So some issues that come from this theory is that we don't have a lot of time to fix this if it is only going to be 11 to 12 years, and humans have known about climate change for a long time now, so the chances of us kind of turning things around now are not looking so great. And also most adults are kind of disregarding this because it's not really affecting their future, it's more our future and our kids. And also the solutions to this problem could be costly, and no one really likes to spend too much money. So. Okay, so some consequences that would come from this theory is the increasing temperatures, just kind of like regular climate, what comes from climate change, increasing temperatures, melting glaciers, severe weather, and like extreme tornadoes, extreme hurricanes, and rising sea levels. And so overall, the theory of 2030 just mentions that we don't have a lot of time to reverse climate change, and it could, in the end, end up ending the world sooner rather than later because we won't have changed enough in time for the Earth to start deteriorating. And so each one of my theories relates to biology. So first, starting with the robots, they kind of compete with humans. They're essentially humans' top competition, and they test our biological structures basically, and also types, like I mentioned, like efficiency and our jobs and stuff. Volcanoes and the expansion of the sun talk about jeopardizing, obviously, the whole planet and all life on it, as well as climate change, but over time that's more of a gradual process and affects everything living on the earth right now. And so some challenges I faced while doing my project was first figuring out what to research because there's such a broad spectrum and I could have gone in any direction, but I chose this topic because I felt like everyone kind of thinks about this, which is why I asked you guys at the beginning what your theories were, kind of just to show you that everyone has a different kind of perspective and it could go like any way. Like Dr. Crowther said, water deprivation, and Lily mentioned aliens, so there's kind of a broad spectrum, but I decided to pick these 4 topics because I thought they were most interesting. They had a good amount of evidence supporting them, and yeah, I just thought they were interesting, and I believe that I kind of didn't know what I was going to get going into this, but from now I can look back and say that I've learned a lot in kind of different perspectives that other people had, different scientists even having completely different thoughts. And overall, the end of the world is nothing we'll know for sure until it is exactly pretty much happening. I mean, we can even have these ideas that climate change is kind of among us right now, and that could end in it could be irreversible in the next 10 to 12 years, but essentially we're not going to really know until it actually happens. Any of these theories kind of stand. Okay. Arna.
So one of the theory of 2020, one question I have for you is, what do you think? Do you think that 11 to 12-year time frame, do you think that's accurate?
I mean, what scientists have been saying is yet. So I believe that, yeah, it's saying 10 to 12 years now, but we've known about this for a long time. It wasn't always just those 10 to 12 years. We've had a long time to kind of react, and we haven't. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I do feel like it's kind of opening people's eyes to climate change and kind of how dangerous it can be. Naima?
When you talk about so like the robot theory, for example, the theory is that robots are going to overtake kind of human function. So when you talk about the end of the world, are you talking about the end of the human population or the
Yeah, so for that one, it was kind of focused on the human population, but I kind of used the world as a general kind of umbrella term, so I could fit these theories into that kind of category. Yeah, great.
So you mentioned before that robots are like the human race is one of their big competitors. But if we're basically the ones that are making the robots and letting them evolve, then how would it get to a point where they actually overrun us?
Well, for example, like humans only have the potential, like for the transplant list and like donations of organs and stuff. I mean, humans a lot of time have to wait like a long time for that, and that's not really anybody's fault. It's just that we can't just make organs. You know what I'm saying? Like, but by bioprinting, which they expect to become a thing sooner rather than later, would I mean, in that instance, it's putting robots above humans, and like they can complete something that we can't. You know what I'm saying? But Krish.
What theory
Um, I don't at the rate that climate change is happening, I don't believe that we would make it the next 7 billion years before the sun happens to expand. So I think that climate change will kind of end the Earth before the sun would get to us, but I do believe that the sun theory is pretty accurate for the scientific evidence that supports it.
So you mentioned 11 to 12 years from now, and that's the 2031 theory. What are some of the indicators that would suggest 11 to 12 years? Why is it? What were some of those indicators, that evidence, to calculate that 11 to 12 years?
I think that scientists have taken into account the rise in temperatures and that those glaciers that are melting and all kind of these effects and the severe weather that, and they're watching patterns. And I think that since cars have been more popular within this 21st century and all this new technology has been has come forth, that I think scientists have kind of seen kind of alarming type evidence. It kind of mentioned that stuff was getting, or like the Earth was heating up a lot faster than it had been in the past, like too many degrees, too many within. There's actually a video that Bill Nye has posted out there saying that like we need to like wake up, because within the we're heating up way too fast. Like the Earth is expected to like heat up within more than like 8 degrees within the next few years, which is way too much at once. And also they have a lot of pictures from like pieces of ice and glaciers, and they show a picture from 10 years ago and what it looks like today, and the difference is massive. So I think just since all this new technology, I believe it said that like since cars have been more popular and there's a lot more and overpopulation is causing this process to speed up.
Why is it important for the glaciers not to
Because that leads to rises in sea level, which it's just kind of almost a chain reaction to everything, which could cause, which could lead to like stuff like mudslides, and just it all affects each other. So it starts from the glaciers, they melt, goes to the water, then it hits the land, and then it's affecting the people and the organisms on Earth.